Okay, Steve, it's time. We've crossed 40,000 subscribers finally. It took us a little while. Originally, the goal was in October, but we hit it in November, so, a classic Christmas miracle. Anything you'd like to say to thank the audience for sticking around despite our remarkable incompetence?
Yeah, I don't know how y'all endure this weekly or whenever the hell Psy uploads it.
It could be anywhere from, every 3 days to, once every 3
It
weeks. We have no idea.
exactly. I don't know how y'all endure us.
It's failing upwards or raw pity. Who cares which one it is, but if success is success. I'll take it. Number go up, line go up.
We're just faking it till we make it, baby.
Faking it and making it, the ultimate combo.
Somehow.
But 40,000 is the holy sci-fi number for turbo nerds. We've reached it. It's time to talk about the silliest, dumbest, hammeriest sci-fi setting out there, Warhammer 40k.
How did I have a feeling it was going this way? I was gonna make, is this a Warhammer 40k reference?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yes, it is. We're doing 40k now. It's time. The place that social lives and bank accounts go to die, and the final boss of uncool nerd culture. Or it was. I don't know. The mainstream opinion may have changed. Probably not. But for all the people watching, finally, it's taken us forever to actually get to the introduction. My name is Sai. Welcome to Science Insanity, a channel dedicated to bringing my love of science fiction and all its absolute ridiculous glory to you, the viewer. Along for the ride and filling in as my comedic relief and content fodder is my remarkably sci-fi illiterate co-host. Say hello, Steve.
Hello.
You wanna put a little more energy into that? Maybe introduce yourself, because this is a special video for 40k. Come on.
Hello, I am Steve. It's the bit. We can't change the bit.
You know what? Fine. Fair enough. But Steve, let me set the scene for what 40k's world is like. So your world is under attack by a rampaging horde of turbo demons in all the colors of the rainbow. Within days, you've taken moderate allied losses of several billion dead, and reinforcements aren't coming since it takes 600 to 800 years, business years, for them to get there. Ammunition is being rationed, and any man without a weapon is given explosives and or a sharp stick/brick and told to jump into the encroaching hordes. You've seen the Emperor's Angels, the power armor wielding Astartes, but they were fighting with the demons and flaying people alive and putting their skulls on their armor. You're also pretty sure you've seen someone in the Underhive that looked a little purple and had 3 arms, talking about the many-limbed god and the Great Hunger. Strange bioships have also been detected on the outskirts of the system, and suddenly all of your communication with the wider Imperium stopped working. When you investigated the Underhive to see what was going on, you revealed a horde of skeletons that are wiping out all life and sometimes wear the skin of your friends. Your bar of corpse starch made from last battle's casualties is stale and unappetizing and the only thing you've eaten in days. And of course, despite it all, with everything going on and the world ending, there are still fucking orks everywhere. All in all, a pretty average Tuesday in the Imperium of Man. That sets the stage wonderfully for what 40k is about. It's just a giant cluster with everything imaginable going wrong at all times everywhere, and you're probably most likely to just be a random unlucky POS that's gonna, I don't know, man, get eaten by aliens, get eaten by a different kind of aliens, flayed alive, eaten by demons, eaten by orcs after they... I don't know, man. You're just gonna end up dead in one of very many awful ways. Before we dive into what this absolute abomination of a setting is, there's 2 things you really need to understand about it. Firstly, it is a setting that has fully decayed. There's no hope of a better future. Despite what anyone may think, you can't fix her, dude, but by the God Emperor, you can make her worse. So you take something like Halo, for example, and oh sure, the UNSC is losing across the Human Covenant War, but they still have all the knowledge and the tech and the stuff to make a comeback. The Human Covenant War was a speed bump on their development, nothing more. 23 billion, 2/3 of all humanity dead, 90% of all worlds glassed, pretty much all naval assets gone, nothing more, he says.
We could definitely come back from that trust.
Those are rookie numbers in 40k. If someone was 23 billion dead, we'll be like, ooh, that was a bit of a rough skirmish on the borders of a single planet. Battletech, as the next example, for the most part, is decaying. They've lost a lot of their old glory, they've settled into stagnancy and war for hundreds of years, but, they still remember what they've lost, and they still try, and often fail, to crawl out of the gutter they're in and keep moving forwards. But 40k is way too far gone. All the factions, except the Tau, but they don't count, are so old, decrepit, and past their prime that the true heights of their empires are just gone. They have all lost more than they even have the ability to remember losing. So when I start explaining why the hyper-advanced FTL-capable warship is dressed up like a cathedral in space and loads its skyscraper-sized guns the same way people built Stonehenge, that's the answer. The technology to build anything is just, it's gone. Everyone forgot about it, wiped away in tens of thousands of years of fighting. And I'll see if I can find that image of the actual, like, loading teams. Oh, here we go. This image, though. This is how people load those guns. You see in those pictures, you look at, like, the front part, they've got, like, the big broadside section, you can see these massive guns sticking out the side. Those things are the size of skyscrapers, dude. They are absolutely enormous. And the way that they load them, canonically, is to get, like, 1,000 slaves to just strap ropes onto the thing and pull it forward the same way that ancient people wrapped ropes around stones to build Stonehenge. It's pure stupid, and I love it. It's perfect.
But we've really just gone back to triremes here, except for instead of rowing the boat, we're loading the weaponry.
Here's a random fun fact, by the way. When I said the world is decayed, sometimes it's happened in really funny ways. Like, they can still build the reactors and the engines that power and move these giant ships. They can still build more of them, but they have no idea how to refuel these engines anymore. So when the ship runs out of fuel after like 100 years, they just take the entire engine assembly and reactor out and put a brand new one in, because they don't know how to fill up the gas tank anymore. They've lost that knowledge. It's gone.
Unbelievably real.
The silliest thing ever. So everything's a ramshackle mix of hyper-advanced and hilariously old. You get scenes like with the Imperial Guard, where all of those infantry you see, they're not using guns, those are laser rifles. But then you've got tanks that look like they're straight out of World War I for how absolutely massive, chonky, and, well, land ship they are. It's a wonderful universe where everything conflicts with itself. That Space Marine in the foreground, by the way, is about to flay that poor dude alive. Night Lords are not fun to deal with.
See, that's cool and all, but I'm only going to acknowledge the tank. I cannot believe they made TOG 3.
Okay. TOG 3. Hang on. I've got a picture for this.
You have a picture ready for TOG 3.
Hang on, okay?
The most random shit possible.
I gotta decide which tank fits the TOG 3 better, though. You know what? Fuck it. We're just gonna go with the Baneblade.
Also, is that a fucking ATST?
Yes, no. Okay, that's another thing. 40k steals from literally everyone else. They just steal shit from every other sci-fi setting ever. You're gonna see a lot of stuff like that. You're like, wait a minute, is this entire faction just the Xenomorphs? And the answer is yes, they are. Is this entire faction just Gundam? Yes, they are. Don't ask questions about it, that's what it is. It is the Baneblade! Look how small the dudes are on that thing.
Oh my god. This one looks more like an actual rat, than a TOG, but I can see what you're going for.
Giant, long, flat brick.
You know what I'm referring to with the rat, right?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
That ridiculous German Uber tank.
Yeah, the P-1800 or whatever it is.
Let me see if they've got anything bigger. 40k may have bigger tanks. Oh, well, you know what? The Imperial Guard doesn't have bigger tanks, but we do have the Astraeus Super Heavy, which is this thing. It's very, very big and very, very stupid. I love it. It's like $500 to buy that tabletop mini. It's like $500. It's a mini that weighs like 10 pounds.
I take it back. That one's the rat.
It's great. We could make an entire video just on Imperial armor alone because it's so funny.
Let us know in the comments if you want us to do that.
It's literally a land ship. It's got like anti-air turrets along the sides. Look at that thing. It's glorious. It's so stupid. It's perfect. You know what? That describes all of 40k, actually. It's so stupid. It's perfect.
And with that, that's the end of the video. We've covered all the lore.
We're like 5% of the way there. We've got a lot more.
God.
We've got a lot more to go.
I was just going off this so stupid it's perfect.
That was the first thing. The second thing that you really need to understand is that 40k is satire. If looking at these images does not make it abundantly clear that the entire setting is a joke, then unfortunately I think humor may just be lost on you. The Imperium of Man, the main faction that the setting revolves around, is cartoonishly evil. It's horrifically inefficient and utterly uncaring of human life. Some random bureaucrat makes a clerical accident while filing away, like, resource shipment reports, and billions of people starve to death. Entire worlds are nuked to ash for believing the wrong thing, and the guys in charge are, at the best of times, super Hitler levels of incompetent and xenocidal. The closest thing to lawmen are inquisitors, which on a good day are murder happy, and literally have the quote, "innocence proves nothing," as their motto.
That's based.
Okay, it is, but also everything sucks. And you may ask the question, why? Why would anyone ever let a government devolve into this when there are clearly better ways? Like, the Imperium is the blatant bad guys, and they're horrifically awful. And the simple answer is, yeah, that's the joke. How awful do we have to make the entire setting until that becomes the preferable alternative to everything else? A huge part of 40K's universe is being the absolute worst thing you could ever imagine, times 1,000. Here's a picture of the Chaos Gods, by the way. I mentioned the name of one of them. You want to take a wild guess which one Slanesh is?
The one on the left.
No, that's Zinch. Spelled
Okay,
with
then
a
it's the
spelled
woman.
spelled with a T apostrophe Z.
And where exactly does that go?
It's silent.
Okay. Is it the woman?
Yes, it is. That's not a woman though.
Okay,
That may look like a woman on the surface, but
Woman figured. That's it.
it's whatever's name is the Prince of Pleasure. It's a little bit of everything that you could possibly imagine. It's
Yep,
basically
mhm. I see why.
yeah. What if the horny side of the internet was a was a person?
I have no further comment on this. I would like to die now.
Unfortunately, in the world of 40K, when you die, your soul goes into the warp, and that's where they live, and they're going to have fun with it. So your best bet is to just never die.
Yes. Allow me to simply not be killed by anything. Surely this will be easy. What the hell is that?
oh, the nids.
Did this come out before or after Starship Troopers?
I think this was actually a. Remember how I said there's an entire faction that's just the xenomorphs? Yeah, that's
Is this? Oh, okay.
I mean, you can look at that second image and look in the bottom of it. Oh, that's a very sci image I just posted. Oh no.
That is a.
It's like
Hold
one.
on,
It's
hold
like
on,
one.
let-
It's like
let me hit 1,000 zoom. I get.
it's like
I'm at
120 by 80
500 and
pixels.
It's still not even that big.
The preview online was bigger than what I posted. What the fuck? Look, that's the preview. That's 1/5 of my computer. Look how big it is on preview. Why is it so small in Discord? I got catfished. The preview looked fucking huge, and then it's tiny in real life. What the fuck is this?
I think it's
So getting back on track, because again, we have so much to get through, Steve. As much as these tangents are fun, we really gotta move. We gotta schmoog. So the Tyranids are another threat in the setting. They're an angry horde of steak knives that is out to strip the entire universe clear of all life down to the microscopic level. And then they are going to eat everything that could possibly support life, including the dirt and the rocks and the water and everything else. And they're also coming from every angle of the galaxy all at once in numbers beyond counting, so like at least more than 3. And then after the Tyranids, we've also got stuff like the orks. Oh man, the orks. An entire species of British people. Football hooligans at that, bad enough already, but the only reason they live is to fight. So at random, an orc horde the size of Yes can show up on your world to kill everyone just because they feel like it, your dying screams are funny to them, and they're going to steal all of your stuff. Every British colony just got PTSD flashbacks in real life.
I mean, their teeth are resoundingly British. I mean,
40K is a very satirical world, like I said, and it should be treated as such. Enjoy the memes, revel in the insanity. Now, for the actual state of 40K, I want to read you an absolutely massive quote that kind of explains how things are, okay? Seriously, get ready. This is a big one. It's multiple paragraphs. It is the 41st millennium. For more than 100 centuries, the Emperor of Mankind has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the carrion lord of the vast Imperium of man, for whom 1,000 souls are sacrificed every day so that he may never truly die. just like Joe Biden. To be a man in such times is to be one
Jimmy
amongst
Carter.
To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruelest and most bloody regime imaginable. Forget the power of technology and science, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war. The quote perfectly sums up what this is about, and we'll get into some more silly stuff later on, but for now, I want to talk about a few overarching themes, like why the world is the way it is, and why the brutality and tyranny is needed. Firstly, the warp, reality and how belief can change the world. Now, like most sci-fi settings, Warhammer has a sub-dimension it uses for faster-than-light travel. This is the Imperium, or more simply, the warp. It operates on a very simple principle. If it takes you a year to travel some amount of distance in real space, it would take you 1 hour in the warp. Space is smushed down to allow for shorter travel times without the ships actually needing to move faster. I made a joke earlier about the warp being literal hell, and that's only half true. You see, the warp is a reflection of reality, not only space, distance, and time, but also emotion, belief, and faith. Souls are real in 40k, and like your physical body, exist as your reflection in the warp. If enough souls all feel the same thing or believe the same thing, those reflections can morph, shaping the warp in turn. In ancient times, like millions of years ago, the warp was fairly calm. Species like the Eldar could channel their latent connection with it to create positive gods, for lack of a better word. So take Isha, for example. Their entire species believed in a goddess of healing, bounty, and I think fertility or life or something like that. Classic elven god of bounty, whatever, not super important right now. She's currently in Grandpa Nurgle's cum jar, but that's also not important. Belief can create warp... it's not important.
Okay.
Do you really want the explanation? Do you really want to know?
Nope.
Exactly. So belief can create warp entities. If said entities are strong enough, they can briefly breach the veil and affect the material world, healing the wounded, preventing natural disasters, resurrecting the dead in extreme cases. Just heal the body and put that soul right back in there like nothing happened. And unfortunately, the warp isn't alive. It doesn't have any conscious desire or thoughts. It's simply a reflection of everything that is alive. So, what do you think it's like with an entire galaxy of the worst suffering imaginable and never-ending war?
I think it's very pleasant. It's got to be one of the best places to live. It's probably rated very high on Redfin and all those places. I don't know why Redfin is the first one that came to mind, but it did.
I want you to look at these pictures. I want you to look at these and tell me what you see, Steve.
Looks like a nice summer afternoon to be spending out on the beach.
Because to me, it looks like the unfathomable horrors of the warp in the first image are trying to rip a ship apart and kill all the crew inside. And in the second image, it looks like the barrier between the Immaterium and reality broke down, and hell is literally trying to eat a planet.
Tomato.
You cannot tomato your way out of this one, Steve. That's not how that works.
Those people wish they could.
You know what? Yeah, they really do wish they could.
Actually, they probably all wish they were never born, but I digress.
Essentially, what happened is after all of this time, all of this suffering, the warp spawned 4 chaos gods, which I showed you a picture of a little bit earlier. Each one a different aspect of life in 40k. Khorne, the red one, is war, death, and slaughter. He is a big, dumb, angry smash god of hyper-violence and the strongest of the chaos gods in a straight-up fight. Nurgle, the green one, is a living garbage bag and arch-ugly bastard from whence all others draw power. Disease, decay, and stagnancy are his forte. I'm gonna explain it now because I just want you to suffer. Remember Isha? He has an elf waifu in his chum jar, and he tests new he tests new STDs on her.
Nope, I don't want to know.
No, it's 100% canon, and the reason he does it is because she always heals from everything. And then once he's tested his new foul concoctions on her, he spreads that shit across the rest of the real world. Nurgle fucking sucks.
Is he Unit 731? Is this what we made them into?
No, because he's also really happy. He just loves what he does.
What were they?
You know what? Yeah, sure. Let's go with it. Poor Isha, man. The worst part is if Isha ever escapes, Slaanesh is gonna eat her soul. So it's like, can't fucking win. It's either eternal torment with the living garbage can, or it's eternal torment with She Who Thirsts or the Prince of Pleasure. My god, you cannot win as the Eldar. You just can't. Then we've got Tzeentch, the blue one, general eldritch horror and god of change, plans, magical bullshit, and fish. Most of his aesthetic is like deep sea horror monster and some birds, like big chickens.
Okay.
Then the worst god, Slaanesh, god of sex, drugs, rock and roll, torture, pain, pleasure, and dicking elves for all eternity. The reason the Eldar, by the way, including their gods, are constantly being hunted is because there is no nice way to put this. So the warp is a reflection of the real world, and Slaanesh was the last of the Chaos Gods to be born. So the entire Eldar Empire got a little bit horny, and they may have fucked a god of murder and fucking into existence, and spawned the Eye of Terror, which is Satan's sphincter leading directly into the warp.
Why is this setting like this?
Why settle for casual terror and suffering when you can go professional, Steve?
I suppose that is a good point.
I mean, to rip a joke directly from a bigger, significantly better channel, just don't ask questions. Just grab a tall glass of Slaanesh and have fun. Or cry. She gets off either way, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, the warp. That's how people get around in 40k. This ties back into the horribly oppressive nature of the Imperium. Really all factions in 40k. Hatred and rabid religious zealotry isn't just a measure of control, okay? Like, it certainly helps. Faith in the God Emperor is the glue that holds mankind together, but it's also the first best weapon against the literal hordes of demons trying to rip into reality. If every single Imperial citizen has absolute faith in the God Emperor, has nothing but pure hatred for the Xenos and the unclean and the mutant and the aberration, then it can quite literally drive them away or kill them outright with faith alone. Space Marines have something called the Armor of Contempt, which on tabletop is just like a lol, I shrugged off that artillery shell because I made my saving throw easier. But in lore, they're so rabidly hateful that things like magic, mind control, psychic power, and more just straight up doesn't affect them. You throw fireball and they just go, magic sucks ass and I hate you, die, and your fireball just does nothing. The power of their jawline deflects your bullshit away from them. When the Inquisition, for example, says that innocence proves nothing, that's not like a, haha, I'm always right, and even when I'm wrong, I'm right kind of thing, even though they act like that. They really do mean that. Like, it's an unfortunate reality of 40k. If someone is corrupted by the warp or chaos, as the Imperium calls hostile demons and stuff, then they can lead entire planets to ruin. A single person touched by Nurgle's corruption, oh god, I don't want, nobody wants to be touched by Nurgle. They may not even know it, okay? They may be perfectly fine on the surface, but they will spread a warp taint around them, slowly blackening the souls of people on their world. It will build and build and build, and before you know it, a full incursion is happening into real space. The warp taint and the cult of Nurgle that it spawned has weakened the veil enough that the plague god's influence is bleeding through, his demons of pestilence turning the entire world into a horrific mire. Reality itself starts to rot. Space becomes diseased and sickly, and every person in the solar system falls under the worst plagues imaginable, never able to die, constantly rotting and regrowing forever as they suffer and fester for all eternity. Nurgle's garden, everybody. He's a very diligent gardener. So the Inquisition is brutal, but because so long as they catch that single afflicted person before it gets out of control, even if they have no idea that they're corrupted or they're spreading a plague, then they will save tens or hundreds of billions of people. It's one of the biggest themes in 40k is the fact that as horrible as things are, they're often the lesser evil, and every faction is always trying to commit the smallest evil they can to avoid something unimaginably worse. Except the orks, the only faction that's just having a blast. They're in heaven all the time.
That's because they just get to keep fighting. I mean, they're happy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. As long as they're fighting, they're having a great time. Every faction also has their own struggles. For example, the Eldar, like I mentioned, are forever hunted by Slaanesh. When they die, Slaanesh consumes their very soul, torturing them and probably pegging them for all of eternity to feed their power. Dude, come on. Do you
Nope.
what's with the huh? Did you really expect anything different? We talked about the Prince of Pleasure already,
Nope.
at least briefly.
That's fair. That's fair.
Since the Eldar are vastly more psychically powerful and have far more potent souls, they literally glow in the warp and have to live their life knowing that their literal souls are being forever hunted by demons that want to do unspeakable things to their orifices. To combat this, the Eldar have a profoundly repressive society. Limited emotion, impossibly strict adherence to a specific path in life, tech and magic, I guess, that suppresses their thoughts, feelings, their very soul in some cases, in order to stave off Slaanesh. Once again, the theme of everything sucks rears its ugly head. But inversely, 40k has a strangely uplifting side to the universe as well on the small scale. It doesn't matter how heroic or special you are going to die and be forgotten in a horrible way eventually. The vast majority of people, including characters, are just fodder. But despite that, some of the most interesting and beloved stories are about staring the hopelessness of it all in the face and saying, nah, I'd win. During the staggering siege of the world called Vrax, an Imperial Guardsman would face with a Chaos Space Marine. The Space Marines are like demigods, right? Like genetically engineered monsters like 9 feet tall wearing a tank's worth of power armor. A single Space Marine is worth thousands or tens of thousands of average Guardsmen. But despite being utterly outclassed, despite this Chaos Space Marine also being juiced on Satan steroids, that lone guardsman bound up a bunch of anti-tank grenades and just YOLO'd the guy, fully intending to die, and body tackled him. Or, well, more of like slammed into him since you're not moving 2 tons of how about no with a tackle, but the ensuing explosion obliterated the Marine. No one's going to remember those men that died to kill him. Nobody's going to honor them. But despite it all, they stood against impossible odds and won. Or take a story from the Crimson Fist unit of Space Marines. When most of the planet Rindsworld was lost to an unbelievably massive orc invasion, and despite the fact it slowed them down, those Space Marines picked up a child that had managed to escape and carried them hundreds of kilometers to relative safety in the capital city where they held a defensive line. They had been up for over 300 hours straight, and even if it was a single life, they chose to save just that one more. I think both of those examples may be wrong, and I'm misremembering things. You know what? No. Confidently incorrect. That actually segues into another thing about 40k. The entire setting has an unreliable narrator. So retcons and multiple versions of stories are a canon thing and nothing to stress over. As long as the broad strokes and themes are correct, who cares? It is quite literally a setting where making mistakes and being wrong can be explained away as, calm down bro, it's lore accurate that I don't know shit.
That's unbelievably real. We should write all settings like that. That is actually fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. This has also caused no end to nerd fights in 40k's fandom because somebody remembers something from like...
No fucking doubt.
Yeah, somebody remembers something in a book from like 20 years ago, but then it got retconned like 3 separate times, and someone else is like, no, actually it's this, and neither of the people arguing has read the other book that the people are referencing, so...
And then they're all somehow right.
they are all technically correct.
Also, side note, absolutely fucking impeccable timing on this. Look at the entry channel. Look who just joined.
Top hat on a tech priest? Okay, yeah, that is actually... Okay, alright. Hang on.
Shout out that man.
We're not just shouting him out. I'm taking a screen cap of his name. I'm putting that in... I'm putting that in picture printer. He's gonna be in the video. The Chaos Gods smile upon us. Their favor has granted us comedy. Thank you, Zinch. Your loyal servant thanks you for this blessing. So, with a general idea of what 40k is like thematically, let's get back to some of the sillier stuff, and we'll start with the Imperium of Man. We're not going to cover all the factions, just because, like, there's too many of them. There's, like, 40 of them, if you want to get specific.
Hey, wait a second.
If we're getting really specific, it's more like thousands, but I don't want to cover every fucking Space Marine chapter, because we'll be here forever.
Would it be about 40,000? I don't know. Next.
Sorry, we're moving on.
Yeah, that was funny, Steve. That was... I hate you.
Average Tuesday in Warhammer 40k.
Starting with the Imperium, like I said. The Imperium is a mess. Comparing it to the Holy Roman Tollbooth Empire is an insult to how stupidly wrong everything in the Imperium is. With over 1 million worlds, dozens of competing factions, hell as your highway, and an administratum so overbloated with bureaucracy, they have literal planet-spanning filing cabinets. Nothing is ever running smoothly. Using that example from the beginning of this video where a planet was getting absolutely schwacked, there's a really good chance nobody even knows it's happening for like 100 years. They let out a cry for help or send off like a courier to deliver an emergency message, and it'll take them a century just to find someone that can do anything about it. And when they finally find the right files to assemble and dispatch a relief force, it'll take 200 to 400 more years to mobilize and get there, at which point they will most likely find the planet already a graveyard or perfectly fine having weathered the invasion. So that joke about the Imperium getting around to purging the heretics in 700 to 800 business years, like, that's not a joke, that's actually what it is most of the time. Sometimes FTL warp travel will just not work. Like, you might go for a 3-month journey through the warp, right? And you're like, oh, well, it's not gonna be that bad, but then the warp or the gods, or a random current in the Immaterium, or just bad luck, I guess, goes, lol, Lamau, let's see about that. And for you, it takes 3 months, but for real space, it was 1,000 years. So sometimes you also get to your destination before you actually left real time, but it's fine. It's made all the worse as well, because the Imperium is an empire of cats. All the way from top to bottom, it's cats everywhere that need constant herding. Like, it's just a nightmare. And don't even get me started on the way that the various military factions constantly step on one another's toes and fight civil wars. Because, you see, the Imperium is a tributary empire, alright? It means that every world is mostly allowed to govern itself as long as it follows things like the Imperial cult, worship the Emperor or die, pay the Imperial tithe, which is a giant bucket load of guns, money, men, tanks, whatever you want to pay, actually. It's just protection money, and they'll break your kneecaps if you don't pay it. And the last part is you submit to Imperial authority, which means Imperial officials can come and go and do whatever they want as they please. So across the Imperium, there are countless planetary governments, countless languages, countless systems of currency, and all of them don't work. There is a single standardized system for the Imperium as a whole, but I mean, like, good luck. The language is High Gothic, which is just bastardized Latin, and there's a million different dialects.
Well, you see, that's what the issue is here, which we're using Latin. Crazy to see that ancient Rome is still the most thought about thing on men's minds. Way in the future.
38,000 years later, and ancient Rome is still the #1 most important thing in modern day politics.
You haven't thought about ancient Rome today. What are you doing? You're not real.
Back on track. The Imperium also has multiple other mini empires inside of it. You've got the Mechanicus, which I don't think I've showed you a picture of, which is going to be really fun. Steve, have you ever wanted to replace your genitals with a toaster?
Nope.
Have you ever wanted to replace your eyes with cameras that let you see with, like, X-ray vision and shit?
That sounds baller, especially because I don't, like, have eyes, but, no, I have not previously considered this.
Okay, well, then, the Mechanicus.
Among Us? Why is there an Among Us?
I'm sorry, I had to put that.
Wait, hold on.
That's such a dead meme. Everyone in this community hates that meme. Everyone hates the Among Us memes. Everyone hates it, but it's too good not to bring it up. It's
not everybody. I love it still.
Oh my god. This is the Castellan robot. That's what, like, it actually looks like. Any resemblance to Among Us is purely accidental. The Castellan robot actually came out before Among Us did. The design was released before Among Us came out. So it is not in your walls. It is not crawling through your vents. Instead, it's like a 20-foot tall Smashbot. I need to stop laughing. We actually need to get on. We're about like 80% of the way there.
We're like 2 hours through it already.
Oh god,
Almost.
yeah, I know. We're getting close to being done. We're like 80% of the way there. Like I was saying though, you've got the Mechanicus, which is straight up just another faction that pretends to work with the rest of the humanity. They believe in a different god, technically. They do their own thing and often just ignore what Imperial officials tell them. And you may say, wait a minute, that seems like heresy. And you'd be right. But they are not just the military-industrial complex, they are industry and the military-industrial complex in its entirety. Need a building constructed? They're the ones doing it and supervising. Need a new warship? They're the ones that build it. Need new war gear to outfit an entire army? They make that too. The children's toy figurine of the Emperor? They make those as well. They don't get bothered much, but they have a tendency to constantly go around and cause problems as they're like hoarding technology and stuff. Next up is the ecclesiarchy. On paper, they're simply the religious element of the Imperium, enforcing the imperial cult and ensuring emperor worship, as well as building mile-high cathedrals everywhere they go. They caused a massive civil war when they first rose in the Imperium, and as such cannot have any men under arms. So they looked at that, went, there's a loophole, and now they have exclusively women under arms. The Sisters of Battle are an all-female order of hyper-religious battle nuns that wear power armor, or sometimes they wear nothing and they just run into battle basically naked, wielding giant chainsaws.
Okay then.
Yeah, don't worry, it's not the weirdest thing we've talked about so far.
It's in fact not.
Let that one just slide off like rain. The ecclesiarchy has such a ridiculous amount of influence that there are entire orders of the Inquisition dedicated just to making sure they don't go power mad. The Siege of Rax, a rogue priest caused that by working the people up into a frenzy to the point where they went insane and tried to secede from the Imperium. So as much as the ecclesiarchy works with and is a fundamental part of the rest of the mankind, they are constantly doing shit that causes issues. And the third mini-empire within the Imperium is actually like hundreds of them. Space Marines. A lot of Space Marine chapters own entire solar systems, and in some cases, like Ultramar, an entire region of space. The Imperium gives these systems to the Marines and then turns them into their own private empires, because sometimes the Imperium just has no choice. It's either give it to the Marines and hope that they can protect it and deal with it and then keep paying the Imperial tithe, or some alien horde is just going to eat them. Now we're just going to throw any hint of this being like a reasonable, thought-out script out the window. We're just going to start talking about the raw stupidity of 40k. We've covered the premise of the universe, the big themes and ideas it focuses on, then the main POV of the setting. Now it's fun time. We're just gonna talk about the silly, stupid shit that has no bearing on anything. Xenos, weapons, why that cathedral in the distance is getting closer. Also, first off, sorry to all the people that were hoping for like a comprehensive breakdown of all kinds of stuff. It's not happening in this video. It's just too much.
Bold to assume that we do comprehensive breakdowns here.
If people are actually interested, though, we can do follow-up videos that are more in-depth. We'll break down all of the factions one after another and, like, their allegiance and stuff and role in the setting. Though I'm worried about being called out for copying Ricky and Adric. Whatever, those are plans for the future. So the first thing I want to start with is the humble lasgun. What do you know about this, Steve? Do you want to take a guess just based on the name?
Absolutely nothing. Is it a big laser?
It is a big laser, yes. Let me get you an image or a few of them.
See, you've been ragging on the horny chronically online internet people this whole time. Little did we know you were actually one of them.
I can find something. I will find something worse. You wanna make? I will find shit. We'll make it worse. We'll keep going worse. Oh yeah, that's right. Cat girls are canon. Just like in BattleTech, cat girls are a thing. You can't fucking escape it.
Kill me.
Oh, you wanted this. You're like, oh, you can find some. You poked the you fucking. I have extra chromosomes and many mental illnesses. Fuck you. It's my autism. I get to decide the hyperfixation.
Sorry, the dopamine was just really hitting when I saw the first cat. My bad, guys. I had to post all of them.
Everyone in the image discussion is probably going to be like, what the fuck is this? Those are called abhumans, by the way. That's a real canon thing. So like I was attempting to say what feels like a million years ago, the lasgun. If you transported that into the modern world, it would be the single most powerful man-portable weapon ever made, full stop. A lasbolt striking someone in the chest means they don't have a chest anymore. The light beam, the laser, is so strong that it superheats the surrounding flesh and water, creating a small explosion that would instantly rip the person apart. A shot in the arm, for example, just blows your arm off. It can be semi or fully automatic, depending on the setting you flip. Its charge pack can hold anywhere from over 100 to over 500 shots. It can be recharged by plugging it into a wall socket, leaving it out in the sun, or just tossing it into a fire since it's so efficient at absorbing energy. It's also a laser, which means it has an absurd range and requires no real aiming. Just point at target and you'll hit them. It's also built so rugged that you can use it as a club to beat someone to death and it won't affect the gun at all. And in the world of 40k, the lasgun is so pathetically weak it's referred to as a flashlight for all the good that it'll do to people using it. This thing is a super weapon in the modern day, and it is garbage in 40k. Do you know about what a bolter is? That's like the weapon of 40k.
No.
Let me grab you a picture. These are gonna be some real stupid guns, by the way. I just need you to understand that. They're real stumpy, real fat looking. So a bolter is an absolute monstrosity of a weapon that's frankly pure stupid. You're American, so I assume you're like well read up on gun stuff.
A bold assumption to make, considering half the country, but I am somewhat knowledgeable, yes.
Okay, so a bolter is a 75 caliber autocannon masquerading as a gun. It's a twin stage firing system where you pull the pin, it detonates like a normal bullet, sends it down the barrel, but then once it's like near the end of the barrel, it's got a gyrojet inbuilt into it that kicks off and sends it down range. Do you know what a gyrojet is?
I'm assuming it's a jet that spins, making it the bullet rotate, and therefore.
Yes and no. The bullet is rotating because of the rifling of the gun before it actually gets out there. But
it is already rifled.
Yeah. The whole point of a gyrojet, this is a real thing, by the way. Like, they've got a rocket in the bottom of the bullet, so when you fire it, it's rocket propelled. That's what these things are. They put a rocket in the base of the bullet, so after it's fired down the barrel and spun up due to the rifling, it keeps accelerating until it hits something, which is absolutely silly since bolter rounds, or just bolts, are closer to the size of grenades fired from those 6-shooters. I don't remember the name, but you know the ones, right? Like the famous Found?
Yes.
Except these ones are accelerated to ludicrous velocity, have an armor-piercing tip that lets them burrow into the target, whether it be flesh, stone, armor, chitin, whatever, and then explode with many times the force of a normal grenade. The lasgun may blow a hole in your chest, but the bolter removes your entire upper body. Getting shot by this thing reduces you to a fine pink mist. So something else that's an absolute hallmark of 40k is some of the images I've just posted there. Those are Imperial Titans. They are absolutely massive. These things stand hundreds of meters tall, I think, and they're commonly joked to, especially the Emperor class Titans, the one that have the giant cathedrals on them, as being walking mountains. Or, why is that cathedral walking closer to me? Because these things have enough firepower to level entire armies in single volleys. They are protected by orbital void shields, so the same shields that are on capital class warships protect these things, and they will essentially shrug off any return fire that's not overwhelming and concentrated. And the big ones are so big that they have smaller armies inside their legs to stop people from trying to board them. They dwarf mountains as they walk by. It's great. And they're profoundly silly. They've got such wonderful weapons like the volcano cannon, which just turns an entire battlefield into molten lava with, I think it's a las weapon, so it's just a really, really fuck-off giant laser. So I also want to talk a little bit about Xenos stuff, specifically orks and necrons, and then I think we'll call it an end for the day, because we've been going for a long-ass time on this video. The orks are the comedic relief faction of this setting, and they are the best part of it. They fight on the power of imagination, Steve. Their entire armory looks like a junk heap, and that's because it is a junk heap. They literally just grab scrap and garbage from the leftovers of all of their fights, staple them together, and the reason it works is because they believe hard enough. Every single orc is mildly psychic, And because the warp can change reality and psychic powers drawing from the warp can channel that reality bending crap to throw a fireball or something, if you get enough orcs together and they all believe the same thing, they can influence reality. Which means that in many cases, their guns can't fire because they don't have firing pins or there's nothing that feeds the ammunition properly, but they believe that the gun will shoot, so it shoots. A vehicle could have no fuel in it, but none of the orcs are paying attention to the fuel gauge, or they just didn't install one, and they all believe that it'll work, so it keeps moving. They are profoundly silly. This also extends to color theory. They believe that blue is really lucky, and it makes them luckier. They believe that red things go faster, so red things will go faster. Yellow things, I think yellow things blow up harder, so they blow up harder, or they punch harder, or something. And of course, purple is the stealthiest color. Would you like to know why purple is the sneakiest color, Steve?
Why is it the sneakiest color?
Have you ever seen a purple orc?
No.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
It's perfect. They've got their twin gods, Gork and Mork, which are just really big, powerful orcs that are constant. So the orcs also have the funniest names in the entire setting. Now, I'm going to give you 3 names. I want you to tell me which one is a fake name, okay?
Okay.
We have got the Shock Jump Dragsta. We also have the Megatrack Scrapjet. We've got the Boomdaka Snaz Wagon. Which one of those is fake?
One with the second one.
No, they're all real.
Okay. I figured that was probably the case, but...
Great. The Boomdaka Snaz Wagon, Steve. That's a real vehicle you can take on the tabletop that the orcs have made. It is beautiful. They are beautiful. They even have a unit that's just called the Orc Knobs, which is like, yeah, thanks. Give me like 5 minutes, oh opponent of mine. I'm deploying all of my units of orc dicks.
Hold on, I'm playing with my knobs, alright? Leave me alone for a couple minutes.
And then we've got my personal favorite faction, the Necrons. The Necrons are very old men that are very angry about all the whippersnappers being on their fucking lawn, and they just want people to leave. Everyone else thinks that the Necrons are horrific, borderline Lovecraftian undead robot monsters that have technologies beyond your wildest comprehension, but to other Necrons, they're just really, really cranky after they had been sleeping for 40 million years. There are such wonderful characters like Trazyn the Infinite. Do you know the British Museum memes, Steve?
Yes, I believe so.
Trazyn is quite literally the entire British Museum in a single guy. He's got an entire world called Solemness, which is just a massive museum, except he doesn't collect stuff and artifacts from the past, he just collects stuff in general. It might be your things, it might be your artifacts, it might just be you. He runs around the galaxy stealing shit because he's a kleptomaniac and just really wants it. He also has the single funniest pose ever, because in official Games Workshop art, he is man-spreading like you wouldn't fucking believe. It's so good. The Necrons are technological abominations, like I've said. They have some of the most ridiculous technology in the setting, but they're generally too busy fighting each other and being ridiculous to truly make use of it. Their default infantry weapons, Gauss weapons, whatever, disintegrate you at a subatomic level, meaning there's literally nothing left. And once they hit you, it's not like, oh, it travels in a beam and then it stops kind of thing. No. It's like the weapon triggers your atoms to decay in a certain area around it. And even if they only like winged your pinky, you're just gonna dissolve into dust. You're already dead. They have the galactic gardening trimmers, which can blow up suns anywhere in the galaxy if somebody wants to. You can just like trip into the holo projector and accidentally blow up half the galaxy if you're not paying attention. But they don't use it much because it causes problems and they actually need to agree on things. The Necrons also have straight up just the coolest models in the entire fucking game.
When they're not looking like they were taken from He-Man?
No. Like the new minis for Necrons, the new lines they've come out with, these things are fucking kick ass. Straight up.
Those do be baller.
But that basically sums up 40K. We've been going for a very long time, just under 2 hours. This is the 40,000 subscriber special. This is going to be a monstrous video. It's going to edit down by at least 30 minutes worth of waffling and garbage that the patrons are going to get. But do you have any final words you'd like to give the viewers before we move on to our outro and close things up for the day?
Enjoy. You're not getting another video this long until we get to. So send the video to all your friends and family, and get them to subscribe if you would like a video that's this long.
To all your friends and family?
I don't know. Do these people have friends and family? I'm not well versed in nerd culture.
Well, it depends. Generally,
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
So that basically sums things up. Thank you very much for sitting through it. I am really, really tired. What was our outro again? Oh yeah, if you enjoyed the video, support the channel, leave us a like, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff, because it really does help the channel out, especially smaller channels like this doing more niche turbo nerd content. If you're interested in seeing more stuff for 40k, specifically like deeper dives on the factions or stuff to explain that, let me know in the comments. Steve might not be around for that, but I can definitely do it. And to all the people already supporting the channel, a huge thanks to our patrons, the arms dealers, making sure that we had all the tools and the toys you saw in today's video for hands-on experience, how they got their hands on all of the stuff you saw. Just don't ask. Suffice to say, I've got a closet full of demons and bane blades. To the food merchants, making sure starvation is an ever far away threat, thank you very much. And to the coffee vendors, fueling my editing long into the early hours of the night, huge thanks to you guys as well. One day, I will never sleep again. And to the new patrons who've recently joined, hey, huge thanks to Some Guy Who Spends Money, Orange Avenger, Chamber 675, Avenging Zoo, Zachary Hayes, and Arwell Thomas. Thank you guys very much for your support. It is greatly appreciated, and sorry that it's taken me so long to upload. It's been 2 or 3 weeks since you guys joined, and you haven't got your thank you till now. And last but definitely not least, a patron whose name I have been saving specifically for this moment, Lorgar Aurelian. And while it's wonderful to have a Primarch supporting you, fuck you! You suck! You're responsible for everything that went wrong. Fuck Lorgar. All my homies hate Lorgar. And that's pretty much the end of the video. Thank you very much to everybody that made it this far, and I got nothing else to say, so goodbye!